parents think you're sick because you look at children as sexual objects.
Well, I think it's very easy to jump to the conclusion that somebody is sick if they have a sexual preference or sexual attraction that is different than what your own is. I mean, there's people who think that homosexuals are sick. There's people who think that people who engage in BDSM are sick. I would say that it's different. It's not sick.
But homosexuality and BDSM, that's between consenting adults. This is a child. This is somebody who's the responsibility of a parent until they're 18 years old. The parent has the responsibility to protect this child. I cannot think, I mean, even if society, even if the law allowed it, I can't see a parent ever allowing an adult to have an intimate, sexual, whatever you want to call it, relationship with their child.
All right, well, you're taking that from the context of our society over the last, say, 150 years. There have been societies and times in history when such relationships have been accepted and legal. And there are a number of societies where there are practices, even to this day, which in the United States people might find appalling.
Well, do you see a reason why over the last 150 years society has gravitated towards the age of consent?
If we look at the political reasons for the age of consent laws in Britain and the United States, in Britain it was a reaction to the amount of child prostitution which was taking place in late Victorian England. They made the age of consent laws to try and stop this. In the United States, the consent laws were primarily the result of religious folk who wanted to stop practices that they thought were unacceptable. Before, I mean, in the mid-19th century, age of consent laws in Delaware, 7 years old, many other states, 10 years old. So these ages of consent are relatively recent in an historical context.
If the mother of Lindsay Porter were to send you an email or call you, how long would it take for a picture to be down off your website?
As soon as I was able to log into my server and do so. I mean, at any point when someone who is credibly a relative of someone on the website would ask them to remove it, I would do it. You know, usually, I mean, at this point, it would be a matter of 24 to 48 hours, unless I'm, you know, on a boat or something out where I can't actually access the internet.
What's next for you? What do you do next in life? You're 37. You traveled. You say Prague is the closest thing you have to home. You live out of a suitcase. What's next for Lindsay Ashford in his life?
I haven't got a clue. I'd like to find a place that I feel comfortable and stop for a while, catch my breath. I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing now, which is trying to get a message out to people. And, I mean, really the most important part of the message is that I'm reaching out to people who feel isolated, people who are alone, people who are afraid, and giving them some hope. I get, as well as the death threats and the hateful messages, a lot of message from people saying, this is the first time I've actually had someone say what very closely approximates my own feelings. This is the first time I've realized that I'm not alone. This is the first time I've realized that there is some hope because there are other people like myself. And if I can help other people to make that realization, to help them cope with their depression, with their suicidal tendencies, then I've definitely achieved something. And I'll definitely continue to do that.
You know, honestly, I can't see you ever convincing anybody. Well, I mean, you may be able to convince a close friend or two after they know you for several years that, you know, we'll accept Lindsay as he is. But I can't see you ever convincing any large segment of the population that, you know, it's all right for people to look at 7-year-old girls and you know, want to see them naked and touch them and write things on your website about how you look at them and their undeveloped breasts and, you know, the potential that lies there. And I shared your website with a couple of other people. They read that stuff and they say you are a sick, twisted, demented human being.
Well, Steve, you know, you say that you can't imagine somebody being convinced. And I would say that
I can imagine individuals being convinced.
Well,
I can't imagine you making any progress in getting any large segment of society to believe the things that you believe.
fine, but society is dynamic, and 150 years ago or 200 years ago, people might not have been able to imagine homosexuality being accepted in our society.
Homosexuality
People
was
might
accepted
not
back to
have been able
Roman
to
times.
imagine women's suffrage or a lot of the other things that we now take for granted. And it would have been
You're
hard.
comparing pedophilia to women, the right for women to vote?
I would say that that it is a
That is twisted.
It's not
That
twisted.
is to compare looking at a child as a sexual object to giving women the right to vote.
Well,
That is twisted.
But the thing is that back before there was women's suffrage, people thought that it was twisted to think that women could vote, and people thought that it was twisted that minorities could vote or be counted as full citizens of the republic. And so, these perceptions of what is twisted and sick are a product of our own ethos at this moment in time. And what we have seen abolished over millennia is enormous. We don't have gladiators fighting each other to the death. We don't have public executions in the United States, at least. We don't have people in the Colosseum watching women being raped by animals. And these were all perfectly accepted debaucheries during the Roman Empire, but we think it's very twisted now.
So was no age of consent was accepted back then. We've evolved on those fronts.
We've evolved, but
We've evolved on age of consent as well.
For the wrong reasons. We've evolved on that. We've evolved because a group of people with a vested interest decided that they didn't want this to take place. And I would say that the goals of these ages of consent have not been fulfilled, because the abuse still takes place, regardless of the age of consent. What the age of consent prevents is people who are willing to abide by the law, people who are willing to respect the young people, to have these relationships, and for any young people who might be desirous of such a relationship to have that relationship without fear of their partner being persecuted, incarcerated, whatnot.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, there's a lot of things I like to say, but I think the main thing is this. If our society continues to force people like myself to go underground with no recourse whatsoever, I think it's very damaging for the society.